Fine Crypto here. I hope we're all having a wonderful day. And the title of the video is The Gap is Growing and He's Selling. But please remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any further videos, and just drop me a like if you could, because it would be doing me a massive favor. Remembering none of the information provided in these videos should be taken as a signal to buy or sell. But first and foremost, we look at these crypto bubbles now. What a wonderful price we're seeing, $111. I think this is maybe due to some of the news that's come out over the last couple of days, especially with regards to the UK government pushing through with the CBDCs, removing that expenditure and probably not bothering with a pilot, which, whether you see that as good or bad, it's positive with the price. As we're seeing, we're up 2 ranks to 52 with a market cap of $1.34 billion, and 24-hour volume is up to $52 million in the last 24 hours. And we're seeing that's around about an 83% rise, which is absolutely awesome. And we can see we're up 0.5% in the hour, up 10.1% in the day, up 11.9% in the week. Are we going to stay at these prices, or are we going to go back to that $100? Again, it really doesn't bother me where we're at now, because this time frame we're looking at as we sit here right now is not something that, I'm not going to sell on a 10% game. I'm here until that really does what it should do. Anyhow, so we look at crypto quant, and as we can see, this gap is growing. The price is up, and we're holding around that 1.39 million tokens on exchange, which is obviously still quite good because that is dropping slowly, and we want to see that gradually decline. And anyhow, you wouldn't really want to hold anything on exchanges anyway, because with all the news and all the stuff that's coming out, especially with Binance and the FTX saga and everything else, I think it's important that you own your own crypto. If you keep it on exchanges, really it's not yours, it's theirs, because it's held in their wallets. So just a heads up there for you. And we look at the exchange flow, and as we can see, slightly up from yesterday at 1.241 from the inflows and outflows, so just over 1,000 quant gone back into the exchanges, but that's not a huge amount. As long as it stays flat on that, we're not seeing massive amounts going up. I'm quite happy with that, which is absolutely brilliant. So we go over to Bull Shark Trading for RTA. We had a blast off. He says took one buying imbalance out, then continued up with a nice strong breakout from the channel. HVN at $112 could give us some resistance. Break that, and the next resistance is $120 to $128. Price trading within the daily trading range. We'll watch to see if we get a breakout or rejection there. This move is just a small snippet of what's to come. So yeah, absolutely. With this positivity and people starting to maybe realize the power of quant and what's coming in the future, which is absolutely brilliant. Now, I see this tweet from Stan this morning, and absolutely brilliant. Two cooperating central banks need an interoperability protocol. Guess what these both have in common? Quant and SATP. And as you can see here, Italy and South Korea central banks agree on CBDC operation. The central banks of Italy and South Korea announce a memorandum of understanding in the development and deployment of CBDCs. And we carry on down this thread. Korea Central Bank. And we can see here the Bank of Korea plans to create a unified ledger for tokenized asset settlement. Specifically, the asset transfer mechanism predominantly relies on a common smart contract known as the bridge. The transfer assets across different networks. A noteworthy example of the asset transfer mechanism is the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, SATP, as we know quite well. And we can see here, Gilbert Verdian, I'm incredibly proud to be able to announce that Quant has been collaborated with the Bank of International Settlement and the Bank of England. And as you can see, Jung Phil Park like this tweet. And then we see who is Jung Phil Park, Head of Digital Strategy and Data Governance Team at the Bank of Korea. So slowly beginning to piece those crumbs like a dot-to-dot drawing. And we can see here CBD system, Bank A to Bank C through the central bank. And we can see connected outside systems. Then we've got the bridge gateways here. Great infographic there. And we see here a challenge central bank doing CBDC experiments on Nexus Spunter. And we can see here real life CBDC launching in Spunter's environment. interoperability provided by Quant. And you can see here testing a DLT-based wholesale CBDC in the Spunter production environment, meaning in real life instead of an isolated environment. Very exciting. Now, this comes from the article that was written by Cointelegraph, and we can see the Banca d'Italia, Italy's central bank, announced on December 5th through its official channels that it has entered into a memorandum of understanding with South Korea's central bank and the Bank of Korea regarding IT and payment systems. According to the Italian central bank, the memorandum of understanding includes a mutual sharing of knowledge and information when it comes to information and communication technology, ICT, issues. Specifically, it mentions ICT issues related to real-time settlement systems and central bank digital currencies. The announcement said that the meeting was attended by the general manager of the Banca d'Italia, Luigi Federico Signorini, who signed off on the agreement. Throughout the last year, both countries have been exploring CBDCs with different approaches. In Italy, the central bank has mainly been focusing on interoperability in its solutions for settling distributed ledger technology based transactions via hash link contracts rather than wholesale CBDC approach, as is the case with other European countries. Meanwhile, South Korea is starting piloting its CBDC infrastructure technology in October. Its pilots include both private banks and public institutions, with technical support being provided through the Bank of International Settlements. Now, we know who works with them. In November, South Korea announced that it will invite 100,000 citizens to test its CBDC beginning in 2024. We talked about this in previous videos, which was really, really exciting. So there you go, guys. Quite exciting times that we are seeing. We are at the start of a new evolution of fintech as we start to see these CBDCs beginning to roll out. Very, very start. Now, on a different subject as well. Now, many of you have been talking about Miles Bron and his antics during the last few days. He says, Quant, I have some bad news to share with you. I'm selling all my Quant. Why, you ask? Although I believe in Quant and do see it to be worth 10k in the future, I believe we're just too early and think we will have lots of time still to buy below 200 before the real value is recognized during this bull. Quant's agenda is 2030, not 2023, 24, 25. I'll be turning to other tokens with the aim of coming back with a much larger bag before the real train leaves for Quant. I'll still be posting content on Quant as well as keeping the community up to date. I shall return in the distant future. Well, as we know, this was a bit of a prank from him. What I found quite interesting in this is how people approach this. And I see it's more of a social experiment of that fear and uncertainty and doubt. Because effectively, people were so affected by this element of noise, they were quite dependent on how they felt about it. So, because obviously people buy into things on the basis of what other people are doing. So, it's really important that you know what you hold by doing your own due diligence. So, effort is effectively the knowledge is the power. And that essentially brings the confidence that you have in your investment. Now, it'll only get worse during the bull market. And why? Because there's so many psychological tactics from the big players to either pump the price or to dump it. And especially during a bull market, because they're going to want to sell off when it hits a certain price. And they might be telling you these massive prices when actual fact they're going to be selling off way before then. And that's also the case with, negative to bring the price down so that they can buy in a little bit more. And you've got to understand this is where the work starts now in a bear market, or we've just touched on maybe a bull market, who knows? But I'm just treading lightly with those terms because we don't know just yet, because obviously prices have started moving with regards to BTC, and we know how the phases work. Starts BTC and then slowly works its way down through the other phases. But the work starts now with you. You need to work on yourself. It's like, the way I see this, it's like training for a marathon. You don't start a couple of weeks before. You start now when everything is quiet and you start working on yourself. It's understanding where you sit on the psychological framework of your mind. Now, and I think you need to ask yourself, are you field dependent or field independent? And what I mean by that is do you rely on what other people say for your information? Or are you field independent that you go out and take the opportunity to go away and do your own research? So someone that's field dependent, so basically a person's perspective and thinking about a task or problem are strongly influenced by such contextual factors as additional information and other people's behavior. Whereas field independence is a person's perception of and thinking about a task or problem are influenced more by the person's knowledge base than by the presence of additional information or other people's behavior. And that's quite important, because if you're affected by what someone else says, you're taking that on board, which effectively can change your behavior and your emotions. So if we look at field independence, we see things more analytically. Field dependent see things more holistically. So field independence relates to the ability to perceive a particular item or factor in a field of distracting items. So field dependence, on the other hand, tendency to be dependent on the total field so that parts embedded within the field are not easily perceived. So this is about you working in yourself and being able to spot, you know, what's going on in the room. And I think this is where you need to look at crypto Twitter in exactly the same way. Although we're a community, effectively, this is player versus player in the end, because we are going to be selling on each other. And this is what you need to be aware of, especially in this environment. We may be here right now, with all the information, but eventually it will be player versus player. And that's what you need to be aware of. And taking some of this information and taking the information from just Twitter, I think will leave you quite open. Because if you are dependent on your environment, you're going to look at all that information and maybe get slightly emotional and do things that you wouldn't normally do. Please put in the comments what you think. What are you going to do in the present time? Are you going to put that effort, that work in on yourself, helping yourself for what's to come? Or you're just going to just wait it out and just look at a number. Once it hits that number, you're gone. I mean, that's absolutely fine too, to be fair. My focus is I know what I want now. I've already created a plan, and that plan is certain numbers I'll be releasing. I think is the best way to play it, because doing the due diligence now will serve you in the long run. So there you go, guys. Just a quick update. Please subscribe. Please hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any more videos. And if you haven't already hit that like, please do so now. You'll be doing me a great favor. All the best, and I'll catch you later.